All right, hey everybody, TG here. Let's get everything up and running. Looks like we should be good to go on the social medias and all of that. Thank you, Amara. Also looking good in the Moxie room. So, $7 trial for 30 days. We've got a few people who've been trying that out, and they've been talking in the chat room. One of them just said that they paid for their subscription next quarter. So, Emil, good to hear that. Always love hearing that kind of feedback. And then we have another subscriber earlier this morning trading options based on some of the calls that I was taking, some of the directions I was putting out there. And we were having some jokes in there, but looks like they got 100% on their SOX put, SOXX put. And then I think you're also doing a Tesla trade, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, today's been a pretty active day in the chat room. Really enjoying it, and we'll go and review some of those trades. So let's kind of see what's going on. Remember, everybody, we also have the FOMC today. So the market, I think, is going to be pretty calm for the rest of the day. Yesterday was actually quite wild. Man, the market just kind of drifted down all day, and then right here, when price got to the hourly 50, the S&P kind of held there for a little while, and then it just broke, and that it just careened at the end of the day. Option prices went through the roof. Um, Big move, volatility spiked up. So we were in a couple trades like that, and that actually all worked out very nicely. I really kind of thought maybe we were just going to hang here for the day and not do much, but nice little surprise to get that extra little push to the downside. I figured there was going to be a little bit more weakness today, probably not a ton. I figured all the damage happened yesterday. So that was going on. And then SMCI had their earnings today, and that helped drop the market. So there's actually a bit of a disconnect between the S&P and the semiconductors, and it happened on the way up, and it's happening now on the way down. So what we can see is right here, the S&P and the Nasdaq, and I think even the IWM did a little dip and then a continuation to the upside, whereas the semis right here just kept running right there. So the semis on the way up were helping tell us that that dip in the market, like the dip that we saw in the S&P, was likely to get bought up and continue up, which it did. And then for on the way down, the fact that the S&P and the Nasdaq were weak and continued moving down told me that likely this was also going to continue moving down. And we got a nice gap this morning, and actually it looks like it's even lower. We took two exits this morning, so we took half off there and we took the other half off there. I kind of thought that was going to be the end, because if you look at the S&P and the Nasdaq, they've started to do a double bottom on the lower time frames, but apparently the semis are even weaker, and so it's continued to push lower. So we got our trade, and FOMC. I kind of thought things were gonna level out for the day, so I just took them off. Brighter side. So do I think that the SOXX hourly trampoline means a pop-up? I can't confirm that yet, because this is only a potential trampoline move. And I've learned over the course of the years that I have to call it potential until it actually triggers, because if this wants to keep moving down, the Moxie indicator will just keep going red and then cross back below zero. So it's only a potential right now, and we have to wait if there's going to be a confirmation at some point. Okay. So yeah, there's nothing here. There's nothing to really talk about as far as the bullish side. The only thing I can potentially say is that possibly the market is getting a little bit oversold for the day, and I could see some sort of bounce. I don't know if it's going to be FOMC or tomorrow or something like that. But even if that bounces, I still can't quite confirm if we are ready to move up, or if this is just another bounce to kind of fix that gap and then we move lower. We're just, we're kind of in the middle of this movement, and I can't tell. We're still moving down. The semis are still moving down. Let me come over here and show you. Like, you see that? So we got out of our second position right here where it looked like price was going to level out for a little bit, but it decided to keep moving down. That's no problem. And but yeah, because even a bounce, even if the market were to bounce in here, there's not enough information yet for me to do anything. And we still have to remember that if the market does bounce, we could still go down because maybe this just bounces to come up to the underside of the hourly 50 and then it wants to go lower. Okay. So we just don't have enough data, enough information. We're still in this particular pullback and we just don't know yet. I think if we look at the Dow, this kind of helps show you, because you can see that the Dow is bounced, still in a downtrend, bounce, still in a downtrend. And so we need to figure out if the next bounce, what if the next bounce only goes up to the hourly 50 and can't get over it? Well, that might mean more downside. But if it can maybe get up and then hold, and then maybe it goes further to the upside, okay. But yeah, I mean, look at this. The Dows and chop down here. This could be a bear flag. We could come down here. We could be doing some chop the flagging, and then we go lower. That's a possibility. So we've taken a couple trades. We've gone long. We've gone short. This has totally worked out for us. It's been good. And I thought we kind of laid low towards the end of last week, and then I finally saw an opportunity at the beginning of this week, and we jumped on it, took a couple good trades, and we're just staying nimble on this kind of stuff. Yeah, another subscribers talk about how they paid for their annual membership already in short time. So love hearing that, Eric. Love it. See, brighter side, you got to come back in here, man. We'd love to see you in there. All right, so we got the Dow, which just keeps kind of chopping around in through here. Let's see what else we got. Tesla bounced. Now, any of you who look at my Twitter, my X page, whatever we want to call it nowadays, I thought this move up here, I thought that was a continuation of the news about them coming out with a more affordable car, or going to be cheaper and sell to the masses, something like that. And I was like, seems a little. I mean, I get the bounce, but I was like, this seems a little extreme. Maybe it got short squeezed. Well, as it turns out, the news was that there was a good meeting and a potential deal between Tesla and Baidu about their maps and their technologies, so that Tesla could now do full self-driving in China. So yeah, that is a big deal. That sounds like a really big piece of news, and it does sound like it could be re-solidifying Tesla's entry into China and helping them out. Now, of course, there's a whole lot of talk and conflict about full self-driving. Okay, there's a lot of talk about China and technology stealing. There's that. But just on the surface, based on this news, it does make a lot of sense that the stock popped up, and it might help kind of propel this to the next move to the higher. Because if we look, Tesla has been in a downtrend for quite some time. Like, right, there you go. There's the downtrend right there. And there's a possibility we are seeing some divergence here, and this could be something that's starting to move to the upside. I can't do it yet. It's not ready. I got to wait for a pullback, but we'll have to see if this pullback ever comes into support, and then maybe it starts to move up from there. Oh, Ophira, so you sold your SPXL instead of SPX. Okay. Yeah, we've all done that. I've definitely lost a chunk of money back when I was younger by pushing the wrong button, and that was with futures. So that kind of sucked. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad you got something that actually covered your mistake. That's good. Genesis, I will check out that link. Xpeng boss welcomes Tesla's full self-driving China entry with open arms, sees it driving entire industry forward. Okay, interesting stuff. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the Tesla thing. And then the other bit of news, cannabis. I want to type out cannabis. That's not going to work. Can't I just type cannabis in here and it's going to pull up all the weed stocks? So cannabis is on a tear. The last time that it moved up, which was right around here, was when news that Kamala Harris and Fat Joe started talking and putting out there and saying, hey, we need to change the not designations. Man, this morning, what am I trying to think about for words? The levels at which these things are restricted. So classifications, basically. So no longer is cannabis going to be in the same category as cocaine and heroin, I guess. It's going to be more like Advil and aspirin, which is a huge, huge change. This is, I think, basically the whole thing that the whole industry has been waiting for. And you could see that rightly so, a ton of volume and a big move came from it. But it's hard to want to chase something on that day unless you were able to just absolutely jump on it right when that news came out and you got anywhere in here as a decent price. Anything up here starts to be risky, as you can see, where price just comes back to kind of the normal trend. Because if you kind of look at this, there's kind of a channel, and you can see when you get outside of that channel, it wants to come back into it. Okay, so hey, maybe this is a great spot to buy it. Maybe this is the pullback. We'll have to kind of look at this and see. But hey, sure seems like the cannabis sector, good news keeps happening. The government, if they do actually change the laws and the classifications of it, then this could be good stuff. So this could be an area where there's opportunity. We saw most of them pop up. Tilray, same kind of thing. Hard to want to go chase it yesterday, but hey, maybe this pullback today is about the right area. We'll have to see. They have been obviously very challenging over the last several years. I mean, just look at Tilray. It's been dead and dying for quite some time. And there have been a lot of false starts, a lot of other things about news, hey, this, that, the other thing, but maybe this one has traction. Maybe. Nice, Emil. Yeah. Right. Yeah, Thomas. So rescheduling it to not be the same level of a controlled substance. Right. So taking it out as a heroin and cocaine category and more like cough syrup, I guess. All right. So yeah, keep an eye on those things. There's MJ if you guys are looking for that. Here's the other thing that I have been looking at. We've traded the cannabis stocks a couple times. And if you look at just something like MJ, it sure looks to me like it has reached its low and it's trying to move higher. I mean, can't you just see that there's your double bottom and can't you see that price is actually now higher? It's been trending higher. So I do think that somewhere around here is the low for these names, and then we just have to see, can they actually do something? Okay. And clearly, I think a lot of other people are thinking the same thing because look at all that volume come in at the lows. So if you guys are okay with cannabis and you think that this is something that's going to grow over time, then this will be an area where, hey, maybe you were able to get back in on the ground floor when these are starting to work again. So there's MJ, MSOS. Yeah, you can see that same kind of deal. We might be getting a breakout. Like if it can break out, there might be something here. Okay. Let me take a look at the lower time frames. Yeah. So, don't really want to go chase it from yesterday, but maybe in this pullback could be a decent spot. We'll have to see. Well, yeah, Emil, you seem to be like a kind of a longer term investor. And, if you look at some of the monthly and weekly timeframes, you might just be willing to, pick something up in this area as long as it doesn't fall apart and just say anywhere in here, if it's okay, then, maybe it can go higher. But if it starts to break lower, then you'll have to get out. But yeah, this kind of seems like a decent area. And it could be, I mean, how big is this percentage? Like what's the risk? If it comes back down there, 20%. If you're willing to risk 20%, but if it starts to break out, it'll make up that 20% pretty easily. Yeah, as I said, I mean, these things are trending up. So I'm looking at them and we have traded them in the past. So like this one, MSOS, we traded it, gosh, where do we do it? We think we traded it here to here. And then I think, did we do it again? I'm trying to think if we traded it here and I think we got a few points out of it, something like that. So we've been kind of riding some of the waves. Is MJ better? I don't know. When I looked into these, we actually traded MSOS. It was more American based, and I kind of liked the formations at the time. But my understanding is MSOS is mostly comprised, like the majority, like 30% of MSOS is one stock, whereas MJ is more spread around. But when I was looking at them, MJ didn't seem to be have quite, yeah, you see like MJ doesn't have quite the same growth that MSOS did. But if they do all finally start to work, then they can all kind of work. Let's see, MJ, it's got a range of maybe 15%, where MSOS maybe has a range of 20%, which means that if these things work out, MSOS probably has a little bit more upside than MJ. And other than that, you can look at things like Cron. They have mostly finally started to turn the corner. You can see they do look like they're starting to try to move and actually do something. Here's Cron, but Tilray, I think still having some troubles. It's barely moving. ACB, that's another one. Big volume is coming into these things, and they are moving. We just need to make sure that this is actually going to be real this time. All right. So speaking of other interesting tickers, let's look at DJT. Yeah, it's been doing all right. Doing all right. Now, I would like to see a little bit of a pullback. I can't buy it there. So that's not the move. It's a move. It's been pretty good, and it actually did a very nice test of the hourly 50 and moved up right there. So now if we're going to get into this, we need to actually look for the next opportunity. A little bit more of a pullback, something coming down a little bit. Yeah, B1. Yeah, MSOS is American, right? Let's see. But in principle, Canadian stocks won't benefit as much from the change in classification, which at this point only saves taxes for the company. That is probably true because Canada is pretty okay with cannabis, right? So the classification is really mostly just for the American market. However, B1, I wonder. I don't know what the exporting rules are, but can the Canadian growers export any of their cannabis into America once it becomes decriminalized, or the classification changes? And so does that actually help the Canadian growers? Something to think about there. And other than taxes, it also helps the financial system. So that's the other big problem that cannabis companies have had, or the cannabis industry, is that because it's been federally illegal, you can't really bank with it. The banking system can't get involved. The financial system can't get involved. But if they make this not federally illegal, then you can start getting all the banking stuff in there, and they can be a little more legitimate business. And now you can start getting loans, and you can get credit cards, and you can do all these other things that the financial industry can do. So yeah, if I were in the financial industry, I would be looking at the cannabis industry and say, oh, okay, hey, it finally became, declassified, and now you can do something with it. So I think that's the biggest thing that I know of that's been happening for it. Brighter side, yeah, GRWG, that's another one. Again, these have all been pretty dead for a while, so I'm still saying be a little bit cautious, but this might just be the change that everything's been looking for. GRWG, SNDL, isn't that like Sundial? That one's looking pretty decent. So it's a big maybe. It's a little bit risky, but it could be the start. CDC, I don't know that one. CDC. I don't know that one. I would be careful about the volume. There's almost no volume on that one. So that's why I like MSOS, is because it has, look at that, 11 million shares at $10, and MJ has 2.8 million at $4. So MSOS has much more volume, and I think that was probably the reason why I went with it. Okay. All right. Okay, well, okay, so B1, the declassification doesn't change the banking. Another bill in the system is for that. Well, what bill would that be? Because isn't that the whole reason that it's been illegal, is because it's been classified as a Schedule 1 drug, as far as cocaine and heroin and all that kind of stuff? I thought that's why it was like federally illegal. So if you change the schedule down to aspirin, doesn't that make it not illegal? I don't know. Maybe I need to brush up on some of these things, but that's what I thought was the situation. And if it's not the exact thing, then it's probably just one step closer to where, to where this thing is going. The cat's already out of the bag, and now it's just a matter of where it's going to go. Right. So let's see what else we got. If we look at the cryptos, so GBTC is the ETF I like to look at this, continues to fall out of bed. But you know what? This is something I covered yesterday when we were um, in the simpler central room, so our main room. This has not been along for a very long time. Notice that price every time it gets over the 50 was a inverse trampoline move. Notice how long the Moxie indicator has been below zero. So the Moxie indicator never gave any long signals. So hopefully anybody looking at Bitcoin like this, if you're trading it, you're doing it very, very short term because none of these were any long entries. They were just bounces in what became a downtrend. And you can see this just continues to move to the downside. Now, of course, at some point, it's going to find some support. Hopefully this turns around and we can go back up again. But, for now, it's just needing to recalibrate, blow off some steam. It's had huge runs, and the appetite for it is just not here. So just got to let it do its thing. It went on a huge, huge run. I mean, obviously, this thing has been a massive run, and at some point, the risk to reward just isn't there, and people are going to stop buying it until it sets up again. And that's really just where we're at right now. But the Moxie indicator has been telling you for weeks not to be long on something like this. Yeah, B1, send me a link. tg@simplertrading.com. Yeah, send it over. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about it and stuff like that. So, all right, so Bitcoin, we've been watching things like CLSK continue to move down. So, any of you who have been in the Moxie room and you've watched me talk about the cryptos, yeah, there was a pretty big move here. I missed it. I did not think that the cryptos were going to move as much as they did when the market finally bounced, 2 weeks ago. And I was like, well, I guess I missed it. Let's wait for the next thing. And you know what? That has been the right call. So it would have been great to catch it, but not to jump in too early was also a really, really good decision because you can see here just how it continues to fall down. So my guidance on that was pretty good. And then if you look at Mara, same thing. I covered this in the weekly report. So any of you who are not in the Moxie room, come on over. Got that $7 trial for 30 days. You can try it out. You can also pick up the Moxie indicator. That way you can see things the way I do. And through there, I said, hey, I think we're going to go lower from here. And that was basically a double top. That was the inverse self shoe. And I said, I think that the cryptos, Mara, Riot, we looked at them. I said, I think they're going to go lower from here. And sure enough, they did this week. Okay. Now, maybe they're setting up for this pullback is actually going to be bullish. Brighter side to your point about a trampoline move, that's a little bit more serious of a trampoline move or a potential trampoline move. That one I would be keeping my eye on. Okay. So I am still bullish overall on the cryptos. I just have to wait. But that is something I'm looking for. So yeah, let's see. Emil, you bought BITI yesterday. Now, let me just caution you a little bit. I don't know how far down Bitcoin is going to go, but I feel like buying BITI yesterday was a little late. You bought it right there. Well, there are two better places. One was there and one was there. But buying it up here just seems like a little bit late because you're correct today, like you're making money today, but what are you doing? You're pulling away from the 8 EMA and you're already now into that third ATR. So, it's kind of like FXI. If we look at China, and let's just say you bought China here or here, you're right for a couple days, and then you get a pullback. And I still think that there's probably going to be a little bit more downside to China to where, it probably, let's just say you get a pullback to here. That means that if you bought here, you're now barely profitable, and it could go lower. So it would have been better right here as it bounced off the daily 50, because then it's more unlikely that price is even going to come back to that. But kind of buying it in this area is just a little bit riskier. And then you need to remember buying BITI is actually counter to Bitcoin. It's the inverse ETF. So you can't look at BITI in a normal way saying, oh, I think that's just going to keep going higher because it looks great. You need to understand that what's happening is Bitcoin is pulling back, and Bitcoin overall is in an uptrend. Okay, so Bitcoin is just pulling back right now. and at some point it's going to probably find support and want to go back up again. So you can trade BITI. Just realize that you're trying to short Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin happens to find some support, it's going to go against you. So be very quick with it on your exit if you're going to be doing something like that. And as I said, I would have gone a little bit sooner on the entry. Partly, you can see there's an elf shoe right there, and then there's a trampoline move right there. That would have been better places, but catching it right there is just a little. I think it's just a little bit too late. All right, so speaking of China, let's look at Momo real quick, and then gonna be heading out. And don't forget we have FOMC. The Chinese stocks seem like they are trying. Obviously, FXI had a few really good days, and there are some other good Chinese stocks that have been moving, but it's a mixed bag. I do see potential, but we're gonna, I guess, all markets kind of move together. So I think what we're gonna have to do for the Chinese stocks is basically wait for the American market, for the S&P, all that kind of stuff to bottom out, and see if any of the Chinese stocks have then set up, because then hopefully they're probably all going to move together. Okay, so I see the potential. I just don't know if that's an area that I really want to tackle. They've been kind of rough for a while, and of course, at some point, that extreme pessimism will probably turn the other direction, because that's what happens. Everybody's too far on one side, and then it finally goes. But yeah, I don't know. If you get it, just make sure it keeps working. You don't want to get in something, and then if it starts to falter and not really work, then just don't deal with it. Okay. So a Java, let's see, last one. So gold, also big move, and now it just needs to pull back. This was a huge move, and it got too extended. And I'll point out here, there's the Moxie price trigger to the downside. And basically, you just need to let gold keep pulling back to see if it's going to eventually find support. We don't know where that's going to be exactly, but this big of a move means that at some point it's going to have to rest. And right now, that's what it's doing. So I don't see an entry yet, and we'll just have to wait and see how far down it goes. And then if it actually does find support, and then can go back up again. All right, guys? Cool. All right, guys. Well, remember, if you are interested, coming over here to the Moxie Indicator Mastery, the trading room that I run, you come over to simplertrading.com. We're always running some specials. And then, yeah, come on in, say hi, let me know if you're new, and then we'll see you in there.